I had heard the stories of Rio Oscuro all my life, whispered among the villagers in hushed tones, passed down through generations like a terrible warning. They spoke of the woman who once lived deep in the woods by the river, a figure lost to time yet never truly gone. Some called her La Bruja del Rio, the Witch of the River, a name spoken only in murmurs, as though even mentioning it might summon her specter. She had once been a healer, or so the elders claimed, tending to the sick and wounded with herbs and incantations. But something changed. The river had changed her. And when the first child disappeared, the villagers turned against her. They said she had traded her soul to something that lived beneath the waters, something ancient and hungry. She had been cast out, her cottage burned to cinders, her name erased from the records of the town. But the river did not forget, and neither did she. As a child, I had always been warned to stay away from Rio Oscuro, but the stories had only fueled my fascination. I grew up obsessed with the idea of uncovering the truth. Was she real? Were the disappearances just superstition, or was there something far worse lurking beneath the surface? I needed to see it for myself. I needed to know. So, against all warnings, I packed my gear camera, batteries, waterproof flashlight, journal and set out for the river. The journey was long, the roads winding through dense forests where the trees loomed like silent sentinels. The deeper I ventured, the more oppressive the atmosphere became. By the time I arrived, the sun was dipping below the horizon, painting the sky in deep hues of red and violet. Rio Oscuro stretched before me like a black, bottomless abyss, its waters unnaturally still despite the breeze rustling through the trees. The silence was unsettling. I set up camp by the shoreline, the scent of damp earth thick in the air. I had barely settled in when I noticed the feeling of being watched. Not by an animal or another traveler, but by something unseen, something ancient. The stories whispered in the back of my mind. The tales of those who had heard voices on the wind, luring them closer to the water's edge. The ones who had vanished without a trace. I shook off the thought and focused on my purpose. I would document everything. I would prove that this was nothing more than folklore. As night fell, the silence deepened. No insects chirped, no frogs croaked. Even the wind seemed to have died. A shiver crawled up my spine. And then, just past midnight, I heard it. A rustling, a slow, deliberate movement just beyond my tent. I held my breath, listening. It was not the sound of an animal. It was footsteps, bare feet, moving slowly across the damp earth. My heart pounded as I reached for my flashlight. I forced myself to unzip the tent as quietly as possible, the small sound like a gunshot in the heavy silence. The moment my flashlight cut through the darkness, the noise stopped. I swept the light across the tree line. Nothing, just twisted branches and shifting shadows. But then, my beam landed on something that made my blood run cold. A figure stood at the water's edge. A woman, clad in a tattered flowing dress, her long, matted hair hanging in thick strands over her face. She was motionless, her back to me, but I could feel the weight of her presence, a suffocating pressure that made my chest tighten. The air grew thick, heavy with a scent I could not place damp earth, rot, something metallic. My fingers trembled as I adjusted the beam of my flashlight, trying to see her more clearly. Then she moved, not turned, not stepped, but shifted, impossibly, like a marionette jerked by unseen strings. The dress clung to her frame in unnatural ways, the fabric twisting as though something beneath it was writhing. My stomach lurched. Every instinct screamed at me to run, but I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. She raised her head slightly, just enough for me to see her chin, a sliver of a mouth, lips cracked and blackened, curling into something that was neither a smile nor a snarl. And then she turned. Her face, if it could be called that, was a grotesque mimicry of humanity. Her skin was sallow, stretched too tight over her skull, her eyes sunken pits of ink. The sockets were hollow, but somehow, I knew she was looking at me, staring straight into me. A sound gurgled from her throat, low and wet. A whisper carried on the wind that was not a whisper at all. "Come closer." The words did not pass through the air. They passed through my bones. A chill spread through my spine, sinking deep into my marrow, as if something ancient and cold had reached into me. My fingers tightened around the flashlight, but the beam flickered, its dim glow barely holding back the shadows pressing in around me. The air thickened, heavy with damp earth, and something far worse, something unseen, yet suffocating. She stood just beyond the reach of the light, her form barely distinguishable from the darkness that surrounded her. Her dress, tattered and soaked, dragged through the mud, yet she left no footprints behind. Her feet never truly touched the ground, hovering just above the earth, weightless and raw. The river behind her stirred, rippling outward as if something massive had shifted beneath its surface. And then she lunged. I don't remember turning. I don't remember deciding to run. One moment, I stood frozen in place, and the next, I was tearing through the woods, my heartbeat thundering in my ears. Branches lashed at my arms and face, roots rose to trip me, and the shadows, they moved. The trees warped, their trunks stretching impossibly tall, their limbs twisting like skeletal fingers reaching for me. Somewhere behind me, that voice called again, low and guttural, slithering through the air like a serpent. "Come closer." I ran faster, my breath coming in ragged gasps, my vision blurring at the edges. I knew these woods. I had walked this trail only hours before, but now, every turn was unfamiliar, every path a twisted, endless corridor leading deeper into the unknown. My lungs burned, my legs screamed, but I couldn't stop. I wouldn't stop. Then the world tilted. My foot caught on something, exposed roots, a fallen branch, maybe nothing at all, and I crashed to the ground. The impact knocked the breath from my lungs, the taste of dirt and blood filling my mouth. I clawed at the earth, scrambling to rise, but something held me down. The weight wasn't physical, yet it crushed me, pressing into my chest, coiling around my limbs like invisible chains. I turned my head, the flashlight rolling from my grasp, its beam landing on the riverbank. She was there, closer now, too close. Her eyes dark, endless voids bored into mine, pulling, demanding. Her lips moved, but I didn't need to hear the words. I felt them. "Come closer." The pressure in my skull was unbearable, a dull, insistent pull that made my thoughts foggy, my limbs heavy. The ground beneath me softened, the earth turning slick and wet. Mud clung to my fingers, my arms, my legs, dragging me down, drawing me toward the river's edge. The current churned, black and restless, waiting. I don't know how I broke free. Maybe it was instinct. Maybe it was something else, some primal force buried deep inside me that refused to be taken. My body moved before my mind caught up, and suddenly, I was on my feet again, running blindly through the trees. I ran until my legs gave out, until I collapsed onto the dirt, chest heaving, vision swimming. The sun was rising, golden light pierced through the thick canopy, chasing away the last remnants of night. The weight in the air had lifted. The whispering had stopped. The forest was still again, just as it had been before. But something in me knew the truth. It settled deep in my bones, an unshakable certainty that no amount of sunlight or civilization could erase. The world around me had returned to normal. The streets were quiet, the air crisp with the scent of morning dew, the distant hum of waking life echoing through the town. But I wasn't the same. The weight of the night clung to me, invisible yet suffocating, like unseen hands gripping my shoulders, whispering reminders of what I had escaped. When I finally stumbled back into town, I told no one, not the authorities, not the locals, not even those who had warned me not to go near the river after dark. What could I possibly say? That the stories were true, that the thing people spoke of in hushed voices wasn't just legend but something real, something alive. that the witch of the river still roamed the shores, waiting, watching, choosing her next victim. No one would believe me. They'd laugh, shake their heads, dismiss my fear as the product of exhaustion or an overactive imagination. But I know what I saw, I know what I heard, and I know that when I finally collapsed into my bed that morning, the exhaustion swallowing me whole, sleep did not bring comfort. My dreams were filled with cold water and grasping hands, with whispers that slithered through the dark, calling me back. When I woke, gasping for air, I could still feel the weight of unseen eyes on me, as though she had followed me beyond the woods, beyond the river, beyond the night itself. The river has not forgotten, and neither has she. She is still waiting, and deep down, I know that one day I will hear her voice again.